He's getting his inability to pass rush got him that interception. I think was one of the lines. I'm watching it yesterday going, shut up. I was doing my job.
Catch Mike and Mike every weekday from 6 to 10 a.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN2.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am beyond stoked today to have a very special guest. You may know him from his work in the NFL. He had an 8-year career in the NFL. He's had an unbelievable career as well in broadcasting, TV, radio. And I think you may really know him from his work in Guiding Light. I think that's really his claim to fame, maybe his cameo in Guiding Light, the daytime soap opera. Which, I'm really trying to find the footage here, Mike. Is this hidden footage?
It shouldn't be. Maybe it was burned footage because me and Greeny, maybe they didn't like what we did. That was, we got to do a lot of fun things over the years of doing the show together, whether it was with me and Tony Bruno that started that out, then me and Greeny, then me and Trey Wingo and my son Mike.
Yep.
But with Greeny through those years, we got to be on David Letterman 11 times.
And Mike in the morning, please welcome Mike Golic and Mike Greenberg, ladies and gentlemen.
We got to do Guiding Light. We got to go to the White House. So we got to do a lot of great experiences. We had fun doing Guiding Light. But again, if you can't find the footage, that probably means they weren't too enthralled with what we did.
Listen, I've looked. I'm telling you, I did some digging. I did some digging. I mean, I wanted to have a video. I wanted to maybe try to embarrass you a little bit. But whoever hid this, they did it very well.
It sounds like we embarrassed ourselves enough to not even have a video of it. So not shocking when you kind of, spray it out there and do a lot of different things. God knows you're going to be not good at more than a few of them.
My goodness. Well, you're certainly good at a few as well. And, you guys rocked it for so many years. I think I want to say, was it 17 years with the two of you? Prior to that, obviously, you did some other things, some broadcasting, some play-by-play. Then you did the Trey and Wingo, and truly as a fan, I've been kind of following and listening throughout the years. And, a lot of times, if you Google the name Mike Golic, it's what is he doing now? Where is he now? What's going on with Mike now? So you know what? Let's let the people know. What's Mike doing now?
Well, after I finished, at ESPN, and it was right at the beginning of 21. The last official thing I did with them was I did the Fiesta Bowl for them on the bowl game, and then after that, my contract was up, and I kind of was trying to decide what I wanted to do. I didn't know if I wanted to go back to a daily show. I didn't actually at that time. I'd spent before ESPN, while I was doing college games for ESPN, I was doing local morning radio in Phoenix. So I had been doing morning radio since 1995, all the way through 2000 into 2021. So that's a lot of years of getting up early every day. So I wanted to take a break from that. So that next year I did hits on different shows, things here and there. I didn't want to be committed to an actual show, but I did the Saturday night game of the week for Learfield, which is the radio rights holder for college football. Okay. And I did the Sunday night games for the NFL rights holders, Westwood One Radio. And I love doing radio games. I did TV games forever. I love doing radio games. Number one, I don't have to put a coat and tie on. So I was doing that and doing hits on different shows here and there to try and decide what I wanted to do. Sure. So then after that, I just went to the NFL side and just did the Sunday night games for them. And then DraftKings started a sports network. Obviously, they're a gambling app, but they wanted to be in the sports world, kind of like, the FanDuel is doing as well, and other gambling apps trying to do shows. So they wanted to try and do a sports network where we don't really talk gambling. It's talked about some, but not really by us. We just do a sports show. Same thing I did at ESPN. And when I had the chance to do it with my son, Mike, who stayed at ESPN, but after I left, and then signed with DraftKings as well, we decided to do a morning show together, and they liked that idea. And that was really the only way I was going to go back to an everyday show, especially in the morning, was if you're doing it, I'm doing it with my kid. I mean, the last 3 years at ESPN, after me and Greeny were done, it was me and Wingo and my son, Mike. And those are the best years. When you can get up every morning and work with one of your kids, it's a pretty cool experience. So that was the only reason I was getting back into a daily show that we're doing at DraftKings now, is because it was with my son.
Wow. Well, that's like you just said. I mean, what an absolute pleasure to get up and be able to do that, right? With your son. One of the things that I've really admired about you over the years is your family dynamic, your family tradition, your family dynamic. It seems very, very endearing, just the fact, not only the Notre Dame type thing, because that kind of holds the sentiment there, right? Notre Dame follows the values and everything else. But just anytime I've seen you in interviews or anything like that, it's constantly bringing up the family, the wife, the son. You have a daughter as well.
Yes.
Did everybody go to Notre Dame?
Everybody went to Notre Dame. Mike and Jake played football there. My daughter swam. She was a swimmer at Notre Dame.
So I actually had mentioned, this is the first interview in my new studio, by the way. So welcome.
Very nice.
The gentleman I'm renting it from, I said, I got a 1015. I told him who it was with. And he said, oh, I saw him at a swim meet in Pitt, maybe 10 or 12 years back. And I thought that was really cool, that it's not only the son's involvement. Everybody thinks Mike Golic, right? And it's synonymous with football. Immediately they think football, 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 football. The fact that you were there at your daughter's swim meet, obviously you have a daughter too, and you got to go support the family. But,
well,
go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that was never in question. My wife and I, obviously we wanted to have kids, and that was going to be our focus. And when I started doing the morning show at ESPN in 1998 with Tony Bruno, Mike was 10, Jake was 9, Sydney was, not very old. I think she was 4. And I had said at that point, listen, family is going to be a huge part of the show. And when I started it with Greeny didn't have any kids at the time, was just getting ready to start having kids. We were going to be more of a family show. I was going to involve the family. We weren't going to be an R-rated show by any stretch. But I told the kids, I said, listen, good or bad, you're going to be content. You do something dumb, going to be content. You do something nice, going to be content, and that's how it worked all the way for them, going through, into college and out of college. But the one thing that was important to me, because I always remember my parents being at my sporting events and my dad coaching me and things. And I realize you have to be in a position to do that. It's sometimes it's just impossible to do. The one fortunate thing about getting up at 4:15 every morning and doing a show from 6 to 10 was I was done at 10. Outside of some meetings till 10:30 or 11. So I was the lunch guy at my kids' grade school. I was the lunch monitor. I was able to coach.
You're being serious. You really were.
Oh yeah. I went to there. I was the recess guy, making sure nobody fell off the monkey bars. I was that guy. I was able to coach all my kids. I coached my daughter Sydney in soccer, the boys in basketball, the boys in baseball, the boys in football, all in the Little League. Once I got to high school and above, I stopped. I just sat back and watched.
Yep.
But I always said I would be involved, and I always said we're going to go to that. So when I started working at ESPN, I did college games up until probably 2005. And I said, as soon as my kids start having their sporting events on weekends, I'm done calling games because I want to go watch that. And luckily, I was in a position at ESPN where I could do that, and they were accommodating. We did, Mike and Mike in the mornings all during the week. And then I can go to my kids' football games, basketball games, my daughter's swim meets. And that worked all the way through college. I didn't pick up again doing, analytic color work for college until after my daughter was out of school in 2016. So it was about 11-year span where I went to all their stuff. High school, college, me and my wife were at all the swim meets, all the football games, all the basketball games. We said, we're going to enjoy this. And we were able to. And a lot of that was because of the time slot that I was in. So I was very fortunate in that respect.
Everything that you just said might as well be a blueprint for my current situation. I mean, and I didn't realize how synonymous the two were. Maybe I followed you a little bit more than I even thought. So I have a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 4-year-old. I have this show. I have a few other things going on. My kids are very involved with sports. Everything you just said is even to the coaching, knowing when to let go of the coaching, right?
Yeah.
That is a segue that I'm leading to here. I think a lot of parents, maybe they stay a little too long with the coaching, right? And just from your experience, I like when you said Little League and then going up, and then you need to know when to cut the cord, right? What do you think a good age for that is, or maybe not an age, a certain level?
Well, certainly by high school, I was done, and everybody's different. Now, Jake was my best athlete. Jake was 6'4" in like 7th grade. Yeah. So while he played football, he played lacrosse, he played basketball, and I coached all the Little League stuff there. I was an assistant for lacrosse because I didn't know the game. I just loved the game. I loved watching lacrosse.
Right.
But Jake was just dominant because he was not only the biggest guy out there, but he was usually the fastest guy. So once he got to like a travel team in AAU while he was still in grade school, I backed away from that. I said, A, I'm not competent enough, as a basketball coach to get that intricate. And B, quite honestly, I don't want to deal with AAU basketball is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I wanted others to take over then. And certainly by high school, I never interfered with the high school coaches. Being a former NFL player, they asked me to do some things and I was fine with it,
Sure.
but I never interjected. I always sat back in the stands, would watch practice, just sitting in the back. And if they asked me to do something, I would help. Everybody's different in that aspect. But for me, it was Little League where I brought parents together before every season, whatever it was, what I was coaching, Sydney in soccer, the boys in basketball or football. And I said, listen, your kids are going to learn the two F's from me, fundamentals and fun.
Yep.
Okay. Because this is Little League.
Wow.
If you want to go undefeated and win the championship, hey, it'd be great. But that's not what we're working for here. We're working for them to learn the game, play different positions, because they may be playing one position, no matter the sport, at one age, and 3 years later, their body has changed and they're at a different position. So I'm going to work them all the way around. So I told parents, if you want your kid on a championship team, you may want to move them. We actually had a draft in the 5th grade basketball league, a draft. And I had dads on the phone trading. I mean, I'm like, and not just to have their kid play with a friend, but actual trading for who they felt was better playing. I'm like, are you friggin' kidding me with this? Yeah. We didn't win many championships, but I hope the kids learned and had some fun along the way.
I can't wait for when everybody watches this show, and especially parents of kids that I'm coaching now. We had our first practice Monday. I said, I'm going to teach you guys the fundamentals of baseball, and I'm going to teach you guys how to have fun. Mike, I'm not BSing you here. Exactly what you just said and everything you're saying, man. It's just crazy. Well, my wife will watch this and she'll be like, is this guy like your father? Like, did you guys I mean, it's wild.
I'll tell you this, and it's the same thing my dad told me. Because my dad coached us, me and my brothers, in Little League stuff as well, baseball and football. And was getting ready to start Mike with T-ball, that's how it all starts, and you work your way up in the different sports. He said, son, I'm going to tell you, you are going to so much enjoy coaching your kids in sports because you get to spend time with them and see them develop, and other kids and see them with their friends as well. He said the worst experience you'll have while you're doing it is other parents. And he was true. He was absolutely true. And that's the one thing, as you're going through this, you're going to find in how you deal with the parent whose kid they feel their kid isn't playing enough, or for whatever reason. That is the toughest part of it. It's worth it in the end, but that's the toughest part to deal with is some of the incredible parents that think all their kids are the best hitters in the world, all their soccer players are the best soccer players in the world. And plus the game has changed. I mean, when I was young, certainly, but when my kids were young, you played every sport. Now I'm sure you see they want you to specialize. They want you to play baseball year-round, year-round. And if you look at all the professional athletes out there, for the most part, they all were multiple sports stars growing up. So that is a huge way to kind of involve all the muscles and different ways to evolve as an athlete.
I'm up in Buffalo, New York here. Buffalo is notorious for hockey. We've had quite a few professional athletes come out of here. Patrick Kane, obviously, right down the road from where I'm at. Alex Iafallo in the same town where I'm coaching baseball. So what resonates there is what you just said about parents. Sometimes it's down south. I notice there's a little more football, a little more baseball. But everybody's going to the NHL. Everybody's playing OHL juniors, right? And there is the draft, like you just said. I mean, I won't keep going into it and beating on it, but everything you said is absolutely spot on. And it took me a little while. Now I just kind of sit back, and I told my wife, I said, let's just go over here in the corner and watch our kids. You know what I mean?
We did that with Sydney in soccer. Once she got to a travel team, and they had a state championship travel team. She was the goalie, and I mean, they were fun to watch. So I only coached her for a year when she was really little, and then I backed off of that. We ended up, just like you, my wife and I, we could have planted a Switzerland flag by our chairs and said, leave us alone. We kind of separated ourselves. And there was one time I never jumped, when I coached, sometimes I pulled a parent aside, never did it in public, and tried to explain things to them. One time I did. Somebody tried to coach my daughter at goalie from the fan side, yelling at her, to which that was it. I got up and I laid into that dude right there about coaching on this side. Let the coach do it, talking to another person's kid. But, you know, there are parents who are just going to do it. But through all of that stuff that can happen, it is just phenomenal that you can sit there and watch your kid or coach your kid and watch them grow. It's the greatest thing in the world.
And I think you nailed it. Like, and that's really what we should be focusing on, and just really, you know, stop for a minute, smell the roses, right? You know, there's that old thing, just stop and look around and smell the roses and look at what you've created and out there. So you're a pretty humble dude, and there's got to be a celebrity to it, right? I mean, so when you're at these games, and I know we're going back to kind of where you were and what you were doing, but you know, when you got up and you spoke to that guy and said, "Hey, you know, don't be coaching my wife," everyone kind of knows and recognizes Mike Golic. Was there ever issues with that? I mean, is there, or was there a big demand? Was there always people around? You know, how do you separate the two? How do you separate being a parent and a fan and then the celebrity aspect?
It was, you know, football, it was everybody thought I should be involved at all times. And like I said, in Little League, I felt like I was the best person to coach kids learning fundamentals. And as it got further, I didn't want to be that guy. Okay. But from the people knowing I played in the NFL, they wanted me involved more. I would work with kids in the summertime when it wasn't the season, you know, kind of out of the spotlight, just kind of help it along. As far as other sports, there are those that would think because I played pro football, I know every sport. And certainly at times I think I know every sport, especially when I'm talking on air for 4 hours. It's BS with conviction. Act like I know what I'm talking about. So there is a point to that where I do have to recognize, and it's another reason why I just want to kind of stay in the background and say, this isn't I had all my moments, you know, in high school, you know, at Notre Dame and in the NFL and even in the broadcasting career to the heights that went. You know, I had that. This isn't, as I'm watching my kids, this isn't about me. This isn't my time. So that's why I like just staying in the background and not being involved. If asked, I would answer. But other than that, I said that my time is past. I had no problem. I kid you not, when my NFL career was over, I was 32 years old, and all the competitiveness in my body was gone. Everything went to my kids. I wasn't in any summer leagues, basketball leagues, anything where I was done with it. Everything was to the kids. And how do we now, the kids have their dreams and their goals. How do we help them achieve what they want to do? Because nothing was about me anymore. And I had to make sure I was in a position where the spotlight wasn't on me. It was on my kid. I mean, in such a smaller way. You look at what Bronny James is going through now. Bronny James is never going to escape the shadow of his father. Never. And quite honestly, I hope he doesn't play with LeBron. I hope he's able, just as Bronny said, to have his own career path. Now, would it be fun? We saw Ken Griffey Sr. and Ken Griffey Jr. play on the same team, which was cool. But the shadow that LeBron casts would be very difficult, I think, for Bronny. So I hope Bronny is able to, now the shadow will always be there, but I hope Bronny is able to kind of make his own path.
Listen, I agree with you. And a lot of the athletes that I've been interviewing as of late, there is a lineage there, right? Their parents played, their uncle played. Jim Kelly's nephew was just one of my most recent interviews. And when you carry that, it's almost a weight on, you know, we think like, oh man, it's so cool that you have an uncle that was that famous or whatever. But, you know, like you said, Bronny or a nephew, they carry that with them, you know?
Yes.
And their expectations are through the roof. God forbid, you know, it turns out that they only get a college scholarship, you know, and like, listen, that's my dream for my kids to get a college scholarship, you know, and they're often faced with that. So that's got to be a really, really tough thing for them. As far as you now, you know, and, you know, like I said, you have the show and you're doing this stuff with the son and just kind of enjoying the better things. And I know you're a fisherman. I wanted to go into that a little bit.
Yeah. That's
how I kind of got into, you know, getting to know you a little. So is that a big hobby for you? Is it been fishing now?
I mean, I love it, you know, and our mutual friend, Mark Zona, has been a friend of mine for years. We did things with Bass Pro Shops, and I've been fishing with him many, many times. Such a character and just a great guy. Yeah. I've always loved fishing. I mean, my dad took us fishing, you know, Lake Erie, you know, for perch.
Yeah.
way back when I was a kid. And one of the most fun times I had when I got married, for part of the time we lived in Orlando in the off season by my in-laws. And my father-in-law liked to fish. So when a season would end, I would be beat up. I would be tired. And my father-in-law and I would go out on a lake in Orlando where it's great bass fishing. I love bass fishing.
Yeah.
And we would put a balloon on the line and just throw a line in and just wait for, hopefully a gar didn't take it. Hopefully a bass got it. And because my hands were so sore, I wasn't ready to be casting at spots. Now, as the off season went on, I'd go out and you try and hit the spots and find the spots. But I love fishing, mostly bass fishing. Huge fan of it. That's probably if I could do it more now. I spend a lot of time in Arizona. There's not a lot of lakes around here to go bass fishing. Lake Bartlett, I think, is the closest one, but I have more time when I'm in South Bend. I'm closer to Zona at that point, and we fish. But man, I love it. I just absolutely love it. I don't. Most of the time, it's not called fishing; it's called casting because you're not catching anything. All you're doing is casting a line out there. But I just love the quiet and just the solitude of it.
Well, he was complimentary. I mean, he said you kind of knew what you were doing with the rod in hand. So I
got a little bit. I try not to create too many birds' nests with his spools there.
You try. That's what you want. You're a professional fisherman like that. You got to at least play the game, pretend you know what you're doing, right?
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, man, you've just had an exceptional career, with everything, and now that you get to settle down and work with your son and do everything you're doing, you have a home in Arizona, and then you're in Bend as well.
Yeah, listen, we all.
Did you have moved right into Notre Dame? I mean, right?
We're literally a block off campus. I have a golf cart that I take on campus all the time. Listen, I met my wife the first day of school out there in 1981. We got married my third year into the NFL. What's that?
Did you say the first day of school?
First day of school. First day of school, walking to an orientation dance for freshmen. Our groups ran into one another. We knew each other. First day of school, we started dating our senior year and got married. We were friends all through. Got married my third year in the league when I was with the Oilers. But I mean, and she went to St. Mary's, which is the sister school at Notre Dame. Her sister went there. Both my brothers went to Notre Dame. I went to Notre Dame. All three of my kids went to Notre Dame. So we have such a connection there that getting a house there was just kind of a natural thing for us to say. It's a great kind of gathering point. My one son and his wife ran track at Notre Dame when my son Jake played football there. They've been married for about 7 years. They live in Boston, a good meeting point. Mike is in LA, a good meeting point. Sydney is in Arizona out here. Her husband played ball with the Bears and now is in med school to be a neurologist. So it's easy for everybody to get to South Bend and hang out at the house there. So we always wanted a house there. And then we love Arizona. So yeah, we split it 6 months. Before it starts snowing in South Bend, we come here. And before it gets to 115, we get out of here.
Smart man. Listen, I know that you want to get out and you want to hit the links. So I'll leave you with a couple more things here. Get into some fun stuff here a little bit, right? If you're going to order a pizza, if you're going to order a large cheese and what
Pepperoni.
Just pepperoni.
I'm a pepperoni guy. I mean, I'll do a meat lovers.
Yeah.
But if you're giving me cheese and one topping, it's going to be pepperoni. This has been a topic as anybody who's done radio, or if you listen to radio, especially in the June and July months, the dead months, you start hearing, about lists of pizza lists, Mount Rushmore lists and all that. It's great fodder. People always say if pineapple's on a pizza, it's not a pizza. I say, sure it is. If somebody likes pineapple on a pizza, go for it.
Sure.
I particularly don't, but I'm not gonna criticize somebody who does. But for me, one topping, it's going to be pepperoni.
Yeah, I agree with you. Buffalo's kind of notorious here. We burn the pepperonis.
Yes.
You get a little touch of it. You've played here. I mean, you.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah.
You've been out here in Zona, obviously, and the wings. We're famous for the wings. Where do you think the best pizza comes from? Well, if you had to, rank, if you're doing that, if you got to go. Pizzas, you like the New York style, the Chicago, where are you going?
I probably at the end of the day would like deep dish because there's more to it. So I'd probably lean more to that than the thin crust if I had to. Now, the thin crust is easier to pick up and eat on the go.
Fold it over.
But in either way, quite honestly, I like it almost as much the next day. Day old pizza, throw it in the microwave for 30 seconds, just get it melting a little bit and you're good to go. But if I had to choose the other,
I told you it was going to be very intellectual. We were going to
breaking it down.
Last thing I'll ask you, I mean, over the years, you've obviously made a lot of friends in a lot of different networks and a lot of different things, right? In the music industry. What is your go-to there? And do you have anybody you're close with certain bands that you'll go, and what are some must-see venues or music artists?
Our best friend family-wise and in that industry, and a guy I've known since 2007 when I played in a charity tournament with him, is Darius Rucker.
Okay.
Who obviously the front man for Hootie and the Blowfish, and then been on his own forever now in the country situation. So I met him then. He has been a very, very good friend to the family. And the way, we've known him since then. So my kids were younger when they met him. And quite honestly, now he likes my kids better than me. He likes my wife the best.
Yeah.
And my son's wife, Jenny. But the way I like to judge people like that, I mean, he is just in a different stratosphere, is he treats my kids, and always has, even when they were young, so well.
Yeah.
And I appreciate something like that. And Darius has always been like that. He's been a great friend over the years. He's easily the artist we have seen the most and had the most exposure to, and knowing the band around him. We play fantasy football with him every Sunday. He's in our group that does that. We got into country and Western a lot. I've met a lot of them, the Kenny Chesneys, the Luke Bryans of the world. But Darius is the guy in that entertainment world that we've met and known the most. And just an incredible friend. Actually, because he doesn't really do it, actually played my daughter and I's father-daughter dance song.
Oh,
He
man.
came to the wedding and sang it live, which, I mean, I never asked him to. He said when Sydney got married, he wanted to, because he knew what song it was. And he said he wanted to be there. And sure enough, he showed up. Again, something for my kids. So things I'll never forget.
Kind of tough to top that. So any of your daughter's friends that were at the wedding, they're looking at their dads and they're like, Dad, what do you got here?
Yeah. How about it? How we kind of set the bar.
Darius Rucker here.
Plus, also, there's a humbling phase to it as well, because there was also a young lady there in her 40s, I believe, who isn't as much into the music world of knowing people, was sitting at the table, and somebody said this at the table and said, that guy sounds a lot like Darius Rucker. So I had no idea it was him.
Looks like him too, right?
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes you get that humbling experience as well.
How many times in your life, and I hope this isn't insulting, both handsome as heck men, have you been compared to Jeff Garlin?
Yeah, it's happened.
Right.
Yeah. Especially when I was, bigger boned in my 300-pound days, that now I'd like to be known, look more like the Dos Equis guy. That guy, that's the guy I'd like with the white in the hair and in the beard. Yes.
You got a Kenny Rogers, Dos Equis swag to you now. Yeah.
Yeah. But there was the Garland. Yes, there was that. I did go through that.
The only reason I mentioned that, I was looking yesterday, like I said, and I was researching a little bit, and I'm looking, and I saw side by side because that popped up, and I'm like, oh man, yeah, it really did. But listen, I'll let you get going here. Go hit the golf links. Sounds like it's something I wish I'd be doing today. Thank you again so much for coming on. This was a pleasure. This was a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed it as well. And it was great, man.
Nice to meet you, man. Enjoyed it a lot. Maybe we'll be fishing with Zona at some point.
Sounds good to me. I'll be out there. Take care.
All right, see you.
Thanks, Mike.
Impulse is revolutionizing the physical therapy experience for active individuals in Western New York. From marathon runners to warriors of the weight room, we've got you covered. Our cutting-edge technology takes sport-specific testing to the next level. Our patient-centered approach lets you drive your own recovery. You can expect individualized one-on-one sessions every time you're here. And the game changer? Impulse is home to Western New York's only public board-certified sports PT. If you're ready to get back in the game, call Impulse today and mention Moneyball for $100 off your first visit.